Good stuff.
So you're a food writer podcaster, right? So when I introduce you, that's how.
Yeah. So food and beverage writer. I do a couple radio shows in Baton Rouge they air on the radio, and then I podcast as well. I do a lot of cooking as well. I'm not at any restaurant, so a lot of times I don't like to introduce myself as a chef because the first question is, what's your restaurant? And I don't have one. But I do a lot of different beer dinners, wine dinners, things like that. And then, also some private chef events, cooking demos, cooking classes, stuff like that. So it's all over the place.
How many hours of programming do you guys have on real radio?
I'm on the air 3 hours in Baton Rouge. I've got one show both shows that I do are an hour long.
A week?
Yeah. One is the Bite and Booze radio show, and it's really just talking about, I always have a guest on there with me, and it's just, so we talk about whatever the guest is doing, and it's always something in the food and beverage world. And then it's a lot of restaurant owners, chefs, bartenders.
All I got is Tom Fitzgerald's. For 7 hours a day.
We need more people.
Have the Moran's po' boys. I promise you, it's the greatest.
You got Tom Brennan.
Exactly.
Buy Brennan's. What is it like? What do they want? 22 mil or something like that? I don't know, it's insane. Did you know that?
They're selling.
The whole enterprise was up for auction at a sheriff's auction.
Wow.
Last week, and an attorney, who I'm assuming is in the family because her middle name is Brennan, put an injunction on it, and they're going to go review it for a judge or whatever to see. They've got no money, and it'd be great if somebody that has money buy it and actually make a real grand restaurant with food worth,
They need to turn back the clock, maybe, and bring back some of those just some of the really great favorites that they had. But I knew line cooks there that said that they don't use salt and pepper because they got away from that somewhere in the 80s, and they don't salt and pepper anything on their menu. That was just like, wow. There's none in the kitchen. He was like, no.
So that's cool. I'm gonna check y'all out, man. I had no clue. I'm like, alright, my great-grandmother lived in Baton Rouge. Both my parents went to school in Baton Rouge. My sister lives in Baton Rouge right now. I'm the most, ignorant of Baton Rouge person in the world. And now I'm starting to realize that, it's never been Baton Rouge, blah. I'm from down here, and we don't go to Baton Rouge to, dine or drink or anything like that. But I'm starting to realize there's cool stuff up there that we need to check out.
There's definitely some cool stuff happening in Baton Rouge right now. There's cool stuff happening in Lafayette. And I think we can say this for here if we want to.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things about Baton Rouge to me is just that we are right in between real Cajun country and going to Lafayette and getting into that part, and an hour's drive from New Orleans, and there's no mistaking that the culture here is just world class and it's phenomenal. People come from around the world just to eat here, and Baton Rouge will never have that, and that's okay. There's something good about being kind of that Louisiana melting pot, where we have all the influences from New Orleans, from the Lafayette area, from North Louisiana, all right there in Baton Rouge. It's not the best always, but it's not terrible either.
That's where all the good local farms are coming from up north.
And you guys have more progressive city permanent licensing deals. Y'all even have little pods for local vendors, right? Y'all have a promoted area where, we can
talk about that a little bit as well.
Cool, awesome, yeah, definitely.
The food truck scene is definitely, Baton Rouge has the best food truck scene in Louisiana right now. There's things that could make it better.
Right.
But,
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Hey, everybody, this is Bechtold from NOLA Smokehouse. We are bringing you NOLA Food Podcast. We are broadcasting from the Erin Rose once again, 811 Conti. It's a lovely spot in the back where Killer Po' Boys is. And we got Chef Cam here.
Wow.
From Killer Po' Boys. And we also got Jay Ducote, a food writer and radio personality up in Baton Rouge. He's big time, we're little time. We're going to try to get like he is and pick this man's brain about some NOLA food. So welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Rob.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you talk about NOLA food and, well, not so much NOLA food, more Baton Rouge food.
You know, I do NOLA food as often as I can. I really
More
kind of
Louisiana regional.
Yeah, it's biteandbooze.com is a blog that I started really nothing other than wanting to write about everything that I eat and drink. And so it's, you know, eatanddrake.com was taken, bite and booze weren't. The alliteration I think has actually gotten me more than eatanddrake.com would have anyway.
Right.
So it's been great just doing the bite and booze thing, and it's you know, what I really try to say is that I just celebrate the culture behind food and beverage where I live, which is in Baton Rouge and all of South Louisiana, and then wherever I travel as well. So I definitely write about literally whatever I'm eating and drinking, wherever that happens to be. So I'm definitely not confined. I wouldn't say I'm a Baton Rouge restaurant blog or anything like that. It's things that I cook. It's things that other people cook for me. It's stories behind food. It's stories of food. I mean, it's just it's everything. And then, you know, beer and whiskey and wine and all the good beverages as well.
Yeah,
like
all
this,
the good stuff.
This frozen Irish coffee that I have here at the Erin Rose. This
quite
one's
nice,
delicious.
Yeah.
They top it with a little espresso too. So
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like an alcoholic Winnie's Frosty texture. Yeah, it's great.
That really is it's a good comparison.
Right.
And I love a good frosty.
There's nothing better. Dip a good French fry in it.
Yeah, right. You should garnish it with
It's
French
so
fry like a
good.
Bloody Mary.
They really should. It's so good.
So what's your background, Jay? I mean, obviously you like to write and you like food.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So I was born in Baton Rouge, grew up in Sugar Land, Texas, outside of Houston. Did a lot of hunting growing up, both in Louisiana and whitetail deer hunting in South Texas, and I think really kind of learned to love food and respect where food comes from, hunting and fishing. You know, like a lot of people around South Louisiana do, and certainly, you know, I think that you get a different respect for what you eat when you've actually taken an animal's life and learned how to clean it and actually, you know, get the different cuts of meat off of these.
Actually get your hands dirty.
Right, and then bloody a little bit. Yeah. But that's, you know, that's it's part of the process. Yeah, and so having that respect for what you're eating, I think, goes a long way when it's when you want to cook or when you just want to be knowledgeable about what it is that you're eating. So anyway, I grew up outside of Houston, came back to Louisiana to Baton Rouge to go to LSU, got a bachelor's degree in economics and political science. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, then decided maybe I wanted to teach, but maybe wanted to be a professor. Ended up getting a master's degree in political science at LSU. Learned that I didn't want to be a politician or a political scientist for the rest of my life. So finished the master's degree and then wound up getting a job teaching high school math and coaching baseball. So I did that for a couple years, and the whole time I was at LSU, what I really loved to do was tailgate. And so I did a lot of cooking while at LSU. I threw tailgate parties with 200 people and huge cast iron pots of jambalaya and red beans and rice and gumbo.
So getting the masters perpetuated, like being closer, like you're tailgating from the inside still, right? Like you're not just the alumnus. You're like, all right, we're still in here. Like let me do this dissertation. It's gonna take me another football season.
Right.
So.
A few more years as a student for sure. So I mean, I really mastered, you know, the grill. We made a barbecue pit out of kegs that we brought out to all the tailgate parties, and I mean, just really kind of got immersed in that. But I learned a lot of my cooking doing tailgate parties and cooking large batches of food. And
any
so
smoking or anything, or just
we did some smoking as well, and you know, in addition to the grilling. Didn't do quite as much. Just because we needed a little bit more rapid fire, you know, get some stuff ready, get it off the grill, and not go in a slug. But a lot of times we did smoke stuff overnight and have it ready for the next day's tailgate party. So we did some smoking for sure. One time we actually took our barbecue pit. It hooks up to the receiver hitch on the back of the truck. It's made out of kegs, and it has a vertical old Coors Light keg that's the smoker that we cut a big door in the side of. And so we were going to an LSU Arkansas game in Little Rock, and we got a big fire going in the firebox and had it smoking. We smoked a turkey the whole way to driving to Little Rock. just smoke billowing out of this keg on the back of the truck. It was a pretty cool sight, and it was really good the next day too.
How many kegs make up the grill?
Well, so it's actually a big, it's a full barrel aluminum keg, that's the grill, and then a half barrel stainless steel keg, that's the smoker. Yeah, I'm sure we can find a picture of it online, or I might even have one on my phone. We had it out for the LSU Alabama game a couple weeks ago. But so after 2 years of teaching high school, that had kind of run its course. They actually shut the school down that I was teaching at. And I said, nah, I'm done with this, and kind of fell into a job working for the state of Louisiana for the Department of Health and Hospitals, writing grants on health information technology. And I really knew nothing about healthcare, and I knew nothing about information technology, but I could write fairly well, and I could research fairly well, and I could work with people and all that. So it worked out. I was kind of good at it, but I was bored out of my mind. I just had no interest in it, no passion for researching and writing about health information technology. And so it was very soon after I started the job, this was September 2009, that I just kind of said, you know what, just a pastime while I'm stuck at a 9-to-5 desk job, why don't I start writing about something I am more interested in? I eat every day. I eat at a different restaurant downtown Baton Rouge every day as where I was working, and so it's just like, let me just start writing about everything that I eat and drink and see what happens. And at first it was really just like a food journal. I was chronicling what I ate that day. And maybe when I
did that through a website?
Yeah, and so it was Bite and Booze. I mean, it started as biteandbooze.blogspot.com, and then I bought the URL, and so biteandbooze.com from the very beginning. And that was it. It all just kind of grew from there. Within a couple months, I actually reached out to a local magazine and asked if they needed a food writer, and started writing for them and actually getting some stuff published. It didn't pay very well. It didn't pay anything actually, but you know, I could go to a restaurant and say, hey, I'm writing an article for such and such magazine, and you know, it sounded a lot better than for the blog or whatever. So, and it put me in print as well. You know, publishing a blog is great because you can be self-published and you can do whatever you want to do, but there's just something a little bit more substantial when you kind of say, look, I'm also in print somewhere, or somebody else is publishing my work, not just me.
Somebody else. When you bring the big stack of the magazines, right?
Right.
Hey, check this out. And I'm just like, here, man, hold on, let me send you let me text you the link.
That certainly helps.
I learned a little something last night in underwear.
Yeah, with the web and social media these days, that isn't necessarily important, but like you said, Rob, just having somebody else validate it, and somebody else say, hey, we think what this guy does is worth us publishing, not just him publishing himself. So, it definitely did give a little credibility there, for sure. So, it went well, and everything just kind of ran from there, with me writing about everything that I was eating and drinking. And so the more that I learned about it, and the more that I got into it, the more that I really enjoyed it. And also the more passionate that I got about wanting to learn more about it. Because if I was going to write about something, I wanted to truly understand it. So I really started researching a lot more about how food is made and cooking techniques and things like that. Because if I was going to go into a restaurant and, you know, they were going to tell me that they had, you know, some poached fish with, you know, some sort of red onion aioli or whatever, it's like, well, what does that mean? And if I'm just going to write that, that's not the same as me actually understanding what that is. And, oh, aioli is just a garlic mayonnaise. Okay, cool. But, you know, there's a lot of different, the vocabulary of the food world is definitely intimidating to somebody that really has no clue about it. And you can write about it all you want, but truly knowing it is different. So I started to do that, and then I started to cook a lot more because I would want to recreate things that I had, or just try different things out and expand my own, you know, cooking.
It's almost like you started learning the secrets. You started learning these little techniques. Hey, now can I use them in my house?
The black magic grill, you know.
Ooh, that's how you sear something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, it's interesting you bring up that hunting or the actual like kill was a seminal part. Maybe it's something that was deeper ingrained in you to set you up to maybe have a passion for food and wine. I just thought not the reference, but the metaphor that that's like one of the important parts. I think Thomas Keller has a story. Like he worked at a place where they had to kill rabbits for service when he was young, and like that was one of the turning points for him. So like, wow, this is where food comes from. You know,
it puts a face to the food, and not everything's Rouse's or anything. Everything.
I got
no spill. It's all good, Joe.
It's all good. It's something that's
I know. I'm about to lick the table.
frozen Irish coffee on the table. No good.
Cool. Yeah, but food with a face and not everything coming from Rouse's. I mean, that's what it's about, and that's what I like about these new butcher companies coming around our city.
Right.
You know, we're having these, Cleveland company. They're doing whole animals that are treated humanely. I met the farmers from Chapapella Farms this week. Got a little sample pack from them, and he's telling me proudly how his pigs have dirt in their hooves. They're not standing on concrete all day.
Right.
Or shit.
Or shit. And I think that's really important in this sportsman paradise too, is knowing that this food has a face.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do a lot of hunting and bring it around to that, But from the food blog, how did you get into the radio and podcasting and? You're just a busy bee.
I mean, it's all escalated over the last 3 years, and the first 2 years of that I was working full time, and then I finally was able to quit. And I mean, doing the health information technology stuff and the day job. Until it kind of, it really got to where I was spending more time each week doing the blog, the radio show, the other things in the food and beverage world.
That's where you're passionate.
But as soon as it really kind of got to where it was like I was spending 40 hours a week at the day job, and then really spending at least 40 hours a week on this other stuff, it was just kind of like, all right, something's got to go, something has to change, and the day job I knew is what was going to change. That it was just a matter of time, and so that did
How
happen.
exciting is that?
Yeah, man, it was.
Hey, I'm really gonna do this.
Putting in the 2 weeks notice of the day job was great, but so there's a little bit more. So in 2010, I won the Tony Shashkri's tailgating cook-off representing LSU. It was a big Southeastern Conference-wide tournament. They took a recipe that represented each school in the SEC and then put them up against each other for online votes, and then the top 3 actually went to the LSU Ole Miss game that year and competed in a cook-off, and I ended up winning that whole thing.
What was the dish?
It was a blackberry bourbon bone-in Boston butt. So it was a full pork shoulder that was injected with a mixture of bourbon, honey, and blackberry jam, and then rubbed on the outside with just a 50-50 mix of Tony Shashkri's and brown sugar. So Tony's they were the sponsor. The whole recipe contest was use Tony's.
Right.
So I had to use it. So I just used it as my barbecue rub, and Tony's and brown sugar. And Tony's is mostly salt,
And with garlic.
Right, with a little bit of garlic powder and some cayenne and a couple other things, maybe some paprika and a lot of preservatives, anti-caking agents.
There you go.
But so it's the salt and brown sugar with some garlic and red pepper rub.
Basic rub.
That's all it is. But it ended up winning the whole thing. It was really good the way it turned out. It's an interesting.
Was there a financial prize or?
I got a big green egg. I got a pallet of Tony Shashkri's products delivered to my house, and I'm literally they showed up and they had it was a pallet, and
like
it was
6,
pretty cool.
like 4 foot high pallet, you use a forklift to lift up.
It was. There was. It was shrink wrapped,
Awesome.
and it was in the back of a pickup truck, and we had to cut the plastic wrap off of it to unload it hand by hand because we didn't have a forklift there to unload it in my house. But it was just every product that they offer. It was their, all their instant roux and mixes and red beans and rice. Just everything. I still have a lot of it. There was no way I could go through. I gave a lot away.
Hurricane food.
I really should have just brought most of it to a food bank, and that right when they dropped it off. But oh well. So that was good. So actually, that exact same day that the Tony Shastri's cook-off, the LSU Ole Miss game, went down, I had been personally invited to a casting call in New Orleans for the TV show MasterChef on Fox. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. It's one of Gordon Ramsay's shows.
Gordon Ramsay.
It's the one where they take the home cooks, the amateur chefs.
Yeah.
And
that's the one where you're as people go, you don't move your chair position. So when he gets down to the last 3 or 4, it's kind of like an auditorium style when they had the interviewing thing going on there.
Kind of the blind girl won it the last year.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's like the American Idol for cooking. So it's home chefs, it's people that aren't. They're trying to find people that aren't working in restaurants or aren't doing that kind of stuff.
Y'all have little cooking stations, right?
Yeah.
Like Gordon Ramsay stands right there, like a classroom.
Right.
And then as your people go,
yes,
you're
right.
just one dude's up here, one's there, so it seems kind of scary when you get 3 or 4 people. Fuck.
That's right. That's right.
Cool.
So I brought one of the leftover pork shoulders from the tailgating cook-off to New Orleans. I missed the game. I tailgated for the game, did the cook-off, and then drove to New Orleans for that casting call. And ended up getting cast on season 2 of MasterChef. So I was named one of the top 100 amateur chefs in the country, and they flew me out to Los Angeles, and I was there for 10 days to make some television, and I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes of reality TV and that kind of stuff. It was really exciting. I made a herb roasted rack of venison with a Cajun shrimp and cornbread stuffed bell pepper for my audition. I unfortunately did not end up making it past the first round. The excuse me, the bell pepper ended up being a little too bland, and it honestly was. When I presented the dish, I was in a row. There's a lot of stories that go with this. I also had a bourbon cream sauce. Once I got the venison and the bell pepper in the oven, I kind of had nothing else to do. And you have an hour of cooking time, and so I was making the sauce to go with it, and it had some bourbon in it. And it was one of the other contestants' birthdays, and he wasn't cooking that day. And so I invited him up to take a shot with me. And so we took a shot of bourbon, and then one of the producers comes running across the set, just running up to me, like, "Did you just take a shot of bourbon?" And I was really just thinking, oh no, did I just get myself kicked off the show? Did I sign a contract saying I wouldn't drink or something?
Right.
Is this liability? If I cut my finger off when I'm drunk, I can sue him or something? And she was just like, "No, we didn't get that on camera. Can you take another one?" So I ended up taking 2 more shots of bourbon on the camera, and then went in to present my dish to Gordon Ramsay and Joe Bastianich and Graham Elliott, who's really a great chef out of Chicago. And so the first thing they asked me when I walk in is, they asked me to show the bourbon, and Gordon's like, "Have you been drinking that?" And I said, "Yeah, I had a couple shots while I was cooking." So he walks up and he just tears the stuffed bell pepper apart and goes right to the middle of it with a fork and tastes it, and then he just handed me a fork. And if you've watched enough reality TV, if the judge hands you a fork for you to taste it, that's a bad sign. So I taste it and I say, "It needs more salt, chef." He says, "It needs more everything." All right, it honestly was. The mistake that I definitely made was not tasting the cornbread stuffing before I put it in the bell pepper and put it in the oven, and I definitely didn't season it like I should have. And ultimately, I think the real mistake that I made there was trying to go a little beyond my own comfort zone and season it without using a can of Slappy Mama or something that I would normally. I mean, that's how I would cook at home. And I was going there, and I was just thinking, I don't want to do that. I want to, get all the spices individually and season it myself. And I under-seasoned it, and then I didn't taste it to know, and I got it in the oven, and then I was taking shots of whiskey, and not that I would blame it on that. It was just
Well, they probably edited it like that on TV, right? Hey, look at the old, country boy drinking instead of when he's supposed to be competing, and
So, anyway, Gordon Ramsay's parting words: "The venison's cooked perfectly, but the bell pepper, it's bland. What a shame! What a shame!" And then he walked off.
He shakes his hand, disappointed,
That's it.
You kicked him in the nuts.
What a shame. Bring me you call it Cajun stuffed bell pepper, and it's bland.
But those hurt though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it still hurts. I know being a chef that, you know, every dish I put up's a little baby.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want anybody to not be happy with anything. So I know that had to been well tough. You know?
It was. I learned from it real quick. I mean, it was. I know so much more now than I knew then. I mean, it was early 2011 that I was in Los Angeles filming that, and I've been cooking so much more ever since then than I ever did before, and learning tricks and learning. But you know, I think now if I were to do something like that again, like the thought of tasting it in the middle, like, would just be natural. And then it was like, I have to like remember to taste this before I stuff it, and then I forgot because I was in a hurry to get it in the oven one time, and it's just, you know, there's a lot to it that.
Well, and also, you know, I mean, I've done something with the Food Network before. It's actually airing. We Chops, November 20th. It's airing, whatever.
Nice. Also the DVR.
Yes. But you know, one thing that I definitely learned there, the competition is real as hell, but everything else is just it's TV, it's entertainment, you know.
Right.
And if it weren't a person like you to step up and have the unseasoned bell pepper, then it wouldn't be entertaining to sell ad space for Gordon Ramsay to freak out on your own. You know what I'm saying? It's
sure.
Like, it's not. Yeah, man. It's not like this real. It's smoke and mirrors. It's TV. You know. I mean, I know some of that from doing fine dining or course dining. You know. A little less than what we do here, wrapping sandwiches in the back of a bar. You know, the smoke and mirrors of dining, right? Like, all hell's breaking loose in the kitchen, you know. You got a guy, broken leg, limping around, cooking, two of the cooks OD'd or something,
Somebody
right?
just electrocuted
Right, somebody just electrocuted themselves. And, you know, there's and then, you know, as the runner brings the plate, then it gets calmer, and then that's like the magic of dining, right? The theater of it all. So
yeah, how many times we've had just a shit service and then have the waitstaff go, oh gosh, y'all did great. We're like looking around at each other, god damn, we barely kept it. What are you talking about? They never knew it out on the floor. And that's when you make it.
Yeah.
But you sound to me like a food writer / radio podcaster that really wants to be a chef. I see a chef inside of you that may be using this other way to be a vehicle to do your own thing with food. I definitely hear a passion.
There's a big part of that, and that's what I do a lot more of now. Right when I got back from MasterChef, there was a radio station in Baton Rouge that announced that they were switching to a FM all talk radio format, and they were going to be mostly political, local, conservative talk radio Monday through Friday.
Like Rush Radio.
I mean, but local guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just all their local guys that they got were very conservative leaning. But whatever, that's kind of irrelevant. And you know, they actually do a pretty good job of I don't know, whatever. But they wanted a weekend lineup that was non-political, completely non-political. And I just shot them an email saying, hey, look, I've got this food and beverage blog. I do all this writing. I think it would make great content for local talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
That I want a talk show where I just talk about local places to eat and drink, interviewing local chefs, that kind of stuff.
Is there anything else like that in Baton Rouge?
No, nothing. And I mean, like, they got right back to me, called me in. I met with the president of the company and the programming manager. And a week later, we were signing a contract for me to do a radio show. And so it's the Bite and Booze radio show. It airs every Saturday at 5 p.m. on 107.3 FM in Baton Rouge. And then I podcast it as well and have it linked through my website and all that. So,
and that's a paid gig for you.
Yeah, so it's I mean, it is. I'm able to make money off of that, but I make money by selling my own sponsors and advertisers. The radio station doesn't pay me. Technically, I buy the airtime from them. Okay. Or lease the airtime from them, however you want to say it.
And then sponsors.
And then I find my own sponsors and advertisers to cover that and then some, so I make money on it. Unfortunately, I've had some good sponsors from the very beginning that I've never had to worry about, you know, it costing me to be on the air. It's always been profitable. It's not, you know, it's 1 hour of talk radio a week. It's definitely not paying all the bills or anything, but you know, for that 1 hour of work, it's
And to grow
it's pretty good.
To grow your brand and keep the content up,
That's the big thing for me is that it's opened a lot more doors, and there's a lot of those sponsors and advertisers, and I kind of work it with the radio show and the blog and everything that I do. But if I didn't have that radio show to go with it, I wouldn't be able to recruit the sponsors and advertisers that I have, because it's kind of what we got to earlier, like just doing a blog. You can have a really successful blog, but it's still hard to kind of crack that shell of getting paid sponsors and advertisers. It's like, it's a logo on a website, big deal.
Right.
But then you go in there and say, oh, and it's mentions on my radio show, and then they're a lot more liable, or a lot more adept to say yes to some sponsorships.
We've tried to get some sponsorships on this show. We've had some people reach out and stuff, and it just hasn't really come to fruition yet.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that it can be a challenge. And I think if I was out there beating the street and calling people and saying, hey, this and that, but we just kind of throw it out there and, whatever happens, happens. Do y'all also do donations and stuff like that as another way to do revenue? That's something we've tried. We were thinking about T-shirts, stickers, some way to get, to
so we can keep this going, because we're like you, man. It's about the passion, and like me and Rob both have like other lives. Rob's got like 3 other lives. I just cook Killer Full Boys back here, man. He's got a family, he's got a business. For me, I just work every other day, every day, fill them with sandwiches, and then do the podcast. 1.5 hours a week or whatever we do with it. But we really want to grow it because we like the content, and there's not a lot of people talking about food down here in New Orleans that isn't, God, I'm not going to say the TF word again on the radio, and it comes up every time we talk about this. This is the archetype that the only person that's really doing any kind of food-based radio would be TF, Tom Fitzmaurice,
and Poppy Tooker.
Yeah, she does some, right?
Poppy.
Well, but I guess really like we wanted to talk to the smaller people or anybody really. And I feel like our open-ended ability to grab guests and the guests we've had on have represented such a broad spectrum of New Orleans life. The focus is food, man. This is not a show. We're chefs, but this isn't a show just to interview other chefs and talk about when I carved a dick out of a carrot and hit it in a walk-in 7 years ago at the restaurant we worked at. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good story, though.
Yeah. But
you gotta make the day.
So. Basically, what I was getting at, your ability to draw that is great because it's probably not about Jay Ducote stuffing $100 bills in a mattress. It means you can keep doing what you're doing,
Right.
And if people like what you're doing, then it's important to keep building it. And the cool thing about Louisiana, I'm assuming you're looking out for sponsors that are bigger, but probably locally based companies. So I'd be proud to have somebody one of the big rice companies down here, Domino Sugar. Domino Sugar rescued my mother from Hurricane Katrina. All right. I'll do anything for Domino Sugar.
Tin Roof Beer, there's a lot of local.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Which is how we hooked up, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tin Roof's doing some great stuff in Baton Rouge.
I saw on your website
I do some work with them.
They're doing a pub crawl, right?
As well. Yeah, they've got a couple different things going on right now. They've got their 2-year anniversary coming up, and they're doing a big party with a bunch of food trucks at the brewery. I'm actually partnering with one of our local food trucks, Taco de Paco. They're going to bring their kitchen, and I'm going to bring kind of my tailgating setup, and we're doing a 5-course beer dinner at the brewery on November 29th. That's going to be really cool.
Well, we are so jealous down here in NOLA with y'all and food trucks up there. We have so many permit issues and other bullshit that's keeping it away from New Orleans in general, and we are just real jealous of the great things that we hear from the food trucks up there.
Yeah. That's definitely one thing to go visit up there.
It's kind of weird for Baton Rouge to be looked at as progressive in this kind of thing. Really, it's probably the opposite of that is what happened, in that there just were no laws on the books regulating it. And so the laws were, if you have all your permits from DHH and all that, and you have your 3-compartment sink and whatever, you're good.
Yeah.
And so for downtown Baton Rouge, if a food truck goes and parks in a metered parking spot and they feed the meter like anybody else would, they're good. And there's no law against that. And so there's you know, the food trucks in Baton Rouge have run into, there's some of them that just kind of don't get it to a degree, and they think, you know, they think they're entitled to something or have the rights, and go park right in front of an existing restaurant in downtown, and then it rubs people the wrong way. But for the most part, the real people that are doing the food truck scene, that are doing it through social media, that are doing some progressive cuisine.
Like Curbside Truck is a guy.
Curbside's a great one. Nick Huff with Curbside is doing a phenomenal job, and most of those guys have kind of gotten away from downtown most of the time. It's started to get overrun with people that are giving the food trucks a bad name to a degree. And one problem that Baton Rouge has is that we don't have a lot of high pedestrian traffic areas.
Right.
Baton Rouge is a driving city, and downtown there's enough people concentrated, you know, for lunchtime to do some business, but there's a lot of existing restaurants down there already. There's not room for a whole lot of food trucks to be doing business down there. And then there's nowhere else in Baton Rouge other than like college campuses, but then those are kind of some of the places that you can't get to.
Right.
So the food trucks have really had to make it by finding some different lots around town where they can work with other local businesses and set up and just let people know where they are, and then people come to them.
Almost like popping up in their parking lot.
Right.
Hey,
right.
I'm going to be here on Wednesdays.
Like the Austin Corral, the Portland Pod, you know, which is great because, you know, mobile, and a lot of people that do mobile vending, has been my experience, are coming out of bricks and mortar restaurants. It's not, there's no like, you know, there was no Escoffier of like mobile vending, or it's like it's another system or code or culture. No. It's chefs. They're just, it's a low overhead model,
right.
And for a small business owner, you know, it can be attractive. For me, I don't drive, so you know, I never would want to like buy a truck and have to make a living out of it. But I do have a low overhead model in my little kitchen back here, so I understand. You know, you're able to connect to your guests. Usually, you're serving more casual stuff in a quick service environment, usually, and you're able to connect directly to your guests, man. I mean, what more beauty can a chef want? You know, you don't have waiter X, you know, and don't worry about them. They're gone. The bartender, the host, the maitre d', whatever. Like, it's just you and the guests for the most part. You're a small staff of employees. So. But yeah, it sucks down here, and it is bad for a mobile vendor, I think, to park outside of an existing business in their same category, right?
Right.
I mean, if I were to park out, you know, outside of like Antoine's or something like that, and you're selling hot dogs, I mean, come on. But not that you can do that down here anyway. But guess what? Somebody's got a stranglehold on the hot dog economy of the French Quarter. Man, it's going to be a long time. So that changes. Now, I haven't eaten one of those in probably about 22 years.
Sober.
So,
I've never eaten one of those sober.
right. So, yeah, you know, it's really something that needs to change down here. Competition is good for small and medium-sized businesses, and even large businesses. We can all. People come and visit our city, New Orleans, to eat, drink, you know, whatever. They're coming for pleasure and experience the culture. The more chances we can give locals, tourists, and just generally people who love New Orleans to eat some great handmade food in New Orleans, the better off everybody is, because that means it's less dollars that's going to go into the, you know, places that are these national IHOPs and the Applebee's and the whatever, hopefully. And I think that's the trend that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, Buffalo Wild Wings this past weekend, 3-hour wait in Metairie. They opened up their door, 3-hour wait for fried wings and TV and some Budweiser beer, you know. And
oh, that's sickening.
I know. When I heard that, a tear came to my eye, bro. I was like, this is ridiculous, you know. But people want that. You know, there's a reason Fridays is sustainable in Metairie. There's a reason that they have Applebee's out there. There's a reason Chipotle and Five Guys went to Elmwood instead of coming to New Orleans. New Orleans people, they're going to go local, and you know, it's going to be harder for those kind of people to get.
I can see Chipotle. You know, and Chipotle is actually a company that that from
love
my
their
knowledge
food.
is. Well, I mean, they actually use a lot of better practices, in my opinion. They are committed to using humanely raised meats for most of. I think for the last 7 years, I think like one of their proteins has always been no hormones, no antibiotics, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. But they are a big guy and they're a big corporation, you know. So I mean, eat Chipotle one day, eat 2 other places. The next 2 days, eat local. Eat Chipotle the 4th day, you know.
Chipotle is one of my that's one of my sore subjects actually. I I see most of what they do as being marketing gimmicks, and I think good for them that they realize that advertising that their chicken comes from, hormone-free, whatever, okay, good. That's a good marketing point to say that your chicken's coming. Most chicken at these restaurants is probably hormone-free these days. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, there's a difference between hormone-free. There's all these labels, right? Unless it's free range,
right?
That's when it's humanely treated.
Yeah. Right.
Hormones is just about the feed.
Right. And I don't think that's what you're doing. But I mean, if you look at it is a start, and it's good to educate people about that. And I don't think their burritos are anything that special. Not to be such a national company, but they got their funding from McDonald's when they blew up. I mean, this is a 100% for-profit, profit-driven company using what they're doing as marketing tactics to make millions, and
they're sliding on that whole green idea.
Good for them.
I know this backstory
get it,
a little bit,
but it's just I will never let Chipotle fool me into thinking good, that's good for my local economy to go eat there. No, it's not, and they're not. They might have, when they started, really been good about sourcing local ingredients and stuff. These Chipotles aren't doing.
It is, and it's like when I tell you, when you come back here and you order a sandwich from me, and I tell you my beef is local, hormone-free, cruelty-free, no antibiotics, right? I'm telling you that because I found this beef for flavor, not because I'm hippy-dippy granola or whatever. No, I do believe in some stuff, and I like to practice what I believe in. I think factory farming of meat is awful, and that we never should be able to walk into a grocery store and buy $1.50 a pound ground meat, man, because it's not. It's too cheap. The food, it means nothing to us. You know what I mean? That means nothing at all. But for a big company like that, I feel your point, because it's like, all right, so then you got lawyers like, hey, what can we get away with saying? But they have done some stuff better than some of these other guys still struggling along that really are. But yeah, your money's not directly going into the local economy. They're going. What it is going into semi-low wage-paying jobs, and maybe they've sourced some local stuff from a local produce company that delivered it to them rather than using like a big guy or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of what they did in New York. They use like a smaller produce guy and some seasonal items. But anyway,
Cisco's or
for most of their stuff, but for their produce, I think that was their angle.
That makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying they're the devil. And certainly if you're going to compare them to other national chains in the fast food or quick service market, they're probably a lot better. They probably are significantly better.
What I liked about them, and I first heard about them in D.C. when we were up there after Katrina, is how they were doing all the buildings more green.
Yeah.
It was a big movement in D.C. And I hope they carried that through their whole company, because a lot of places like down here still, styrofoam's king. And, the green movement really hasn't come down here except through rebuilding through Katrina and stuff like that. Getting LED certified and stuff like that. It's important, and especially in Louisiana where things can be just taken away so quickly. When we're rebuilding and we're doing these things, we need to think more green. I think, we should have maybe some legislation in Louisiana. Hey, if you're going to build something new, these are some standards that we have to follow. That's because it's the right thing to do, And I think that's something in their business model that I did like and would carry it through. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's fresh ingredients on a flour tortilla, and you're in and out.
I've just never been like the burrito dude, man. I mean, I'm alright. I'll eat them. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gripped by burritos.
I'm a taco guy. I like a good taco, traditional taco, corn, grilled tortilla. I like that.
I'm gonna change the subject a little bit because I'm curious as hell. I'm very, very curious now, and we usually ask a lot of the guests, "Where are we eating tonight?" But like, I'm gonna go further, man. Let's spit out some names, maybe on the high end, the medium end, and maybe even some mobile vendors out in Baton Rouge. If you're going out to BR, guys, in NOLA, right, and don't take this parochial attitude like everything Baton Rouge sucks. Man, that's good. You know, like we're here with the guy who I would assume probably is a pretty good authority on the current dining scene in Baton Rouge, man. Where we eat, you know, give us. I want to know where we eat to dine, to eat, and then like maybe throw out some of the good mobile vendors and stuff because it is so advanced there.
All right,
I'm taking notes. So
on the high end, Lake Creole, which is and it's right across the street from Rufino's. Those are two really good, higher end, nice dining, date or special occasion kind of places. The chef at Lake Creole is named Ryan Andre, and he was named one of Louisiana Cooking's chefs to watch. They pick 5 chefs every year. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Louisiana Cooking magazine. They pick 5 chefs every year, so they name their up-and-coming chefs to watch. He won it in 2012. Was Baton Rouge's representative, and he's doing some really cool stuff. I mean, gets whole pigs, gets whole tunas in there. You know, just you know, he posts pictures of himself on Twitter. You know, doing the butchering in the back and creating some really cool rock star dishes.
Cool.
So that's a good one. Across the street from Lake Creole, and this is on Highland Road. Actually, pretty easy to get to coming in from New Orleans. It's on the New Orleans side of Baton Rouge. You wouldn't even have to go in to formal Baton Rouge and fight VR traffic. The chef Peter Sclafani actually won one of the contests at NALFI at the New Orleans Wine and Food Experience this past year for a dish that he did with balsamic caviar. So he takes balsamic vinegar and mixes it with a little agar-agar, which is just a plant-based gelatin basically, and then drops it through some chilled vegetable oil, and it forms little balls, so it looks like caviar, but it's balsamic vinegar.
Right.
And so then he makes a little caprese salad with that balsamic caviar, and it's really a pretty cool dish. And he does a lot of other stuff too. It's mostly Italian and steak, but definitely one of the fine dining hits. And then one of the real classic Baton Rouge fine dining restaurants that I still enjoy and I think is starting to be resurrected and come back is Jubin's. And a lot of people that know Baton Rouge cuisine know about Jubin's. It's been in Baton Rouge for 30 years now or something. It's in the same spot. They're on Perkins Road, pretty close to Acadian. And cool little courtyard inside the building. Looks kind of unassuming from the outside, but you walk in. It's stuck in the 70s a little bit. Maybe that's part of what's cool about it. Maybe that's part of what just makes it feel so kind of old. And it's just like the 70s just isn't a good time to be stuck in. It's just kind of gaudy.
But sometimes it feels so lived in, it makes the dining experience a little better.
Right, and part of it's cool. But Chef Jamie Hernandez there was really one of the leaders of the Baton Rouge farm-to-table market. I mean, really sourcing local proteins, local ingredients, doing stuff with the farmers markets, shopping in the markets and getting produce from them, and then creating some real cool stuff. He's one of the guys that's really doing more, you know, charcuterie kind of stuff in Baton Rouge, playing around with bone marrow and cool ingredients. So Jubin's is, and Jubin's also has Baton Rouge's most photographed dish, which is their Hallelujah crab, which is a soft shell crab that's fried upside down, and then when you plate it, it stands up and it's reaching to the sky. They've been around, but Jubin's been doing that dish for a long time, called the Hallelujah crab. On the next, so those would be my 3 fine dining choices. The next tier, Beausoleil, which is in, it's real close to the town center, shopping center, where the Whole Foods in Baton Rouge is, but it's kind of across from that in the Bocage. It's a strip mall called the Bocage Shopping Center. It's a Bocage supermarket in that center. But Chef Nathan Gresham is there. He was actually named one of Louisiana Cooking Magazine's chefs to watch in 2011. Doing some really good stuff. Also kind of that the farm to table kind of thing. When you walk in, there's a chalkboard on the left that shows every local farm and food provider that they get their stuff from. And then just kind of being inventive. It's You know, it's kind of a refined French take on Louisiana cuisine, but well plated and it looks nice, but it's affordable to go in there. It's casual,
like bistro kind of
yeah. But it's and they've got a bar that's really doing. It's a small little bar, but the cocktails that they're coming up with there, with Jeff Conaway behind the bar, they're doing some cool stuff there for sure. And then Restaurant IPO, which is it's a new spot downtown Baton Rouge. On 3rd Street, kind of at the corner of 3rd and Laurel. So downtown Baton Rouge is really kind of coming around right now, and Restaurant IPO is a huge part of the scene there, with Chef Chris Wadsworth doing some really neat stuff. He's really kind of focusing on small plates and tapas, which is kind of trendy, but doing Southern style, Louisiana style small plates. He's got a dish called the Bayou Eggs, which is basically his take on the egg, deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's like he mixes the yolks with like some different sausages, chorizo or something, and then like puts a fried oyster on top of them. Which is it's pretty good deviled egg. Right? He's got these pequeño tacos that are like it's a Louisiana redfish ceviche inside a taco, a little mini taco, but it's all small plates and but some creative stuff, and he's a really good guy. And he's got 7 beers on tap, and they're all local. I mean, it's all Tin Roof and some other local stuff, and you know, I think that's something that's really cool. That it's just you know, it's supporting the local community and. Doing some good stuff.
Like say, hey, this is the bounty of our region, you know, like this is what we've got down here, this is my vision of it, and you know, that's great. I mean, the craft beer movement, you know, I think it with Abita obviously has grown to a size that's bigger than what we call a craft brewery. Now that technically
it's still craft because
right.
They keep adjusting the craft definition so that Sam Adams is always craft.
Right.
But
I mean, it's not as though they're not owned by InBev.
They've upped the quantity. Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the other definitions of craft is that you have to kind of the ownership has to be there and not owned by some larger distributing conglomerate or something. And so, yeah, Abita does still fall into that level where they are owned.
And they make very drinkable. You know, they make very drinkable beers.
Yeah.
Now you got all the other guys. Like we had John Smith on here talk. You know. Telling us a story about Tin Roof. We hope to have some of the NOLA guys on the show at some point. I talk to a lot of local beer guys. I work in bars. I plan on working in a lot of other bars. So I'm always like, how can I put beer in there? Just so the guest says, hey man, we're gonna get drunk on the food end. No, but you know, like I like to use that as something to like kind of market our make us stand out and use local products, right? I think it's great the amount of craft beer that's available now. Because, you know, when you go to some other parts of the country, places you've lived in, places I've lived in, I'm sure places you've traveled in, or I don't know where else you've lived, but, you know, I mean, up in the Northeast and Northwest and West, man, I mean, it's, you know, it's the amount of people selling, like, smaller craft beers is incredible.
Yeah.
Now, we're starting to have some of those brands and styles and distinctive styles. All of the LA 31 stuff, to me, I feel like has the touch of the brewer to it, you know, and then Tin Roof, obviously, right? Covington's, Lazy Magnolia. I mean, what is? There's one in the Parish happening now.
Parish.
40 Arpin.
Yeah. 40 Arpin. There's a couple other. Chafunta is coming. Mudbug Brewery is coming in Thibodeau. Gnarly Barley is another one on North Shore that's coming soon.
Gnarly, that was good stuff. I did an event at St. James Cheese, and they had 7 different local guys up there, and Gnarly Barley was there just to represent. And they said they're not canning or bottling or selling yet.
No, they're not. Close. They're basically still home brewing, and so the law basically says they can give their beer away. So they can show up and hand it out at festivals or different events like that, but they can't sell it yet because they don't have the permits and taxation.
Well, it seems like there's a spirit in Louisiana now to get back to the artisanal and food and farm to table and this whole thing. And it's so fucking exciting to see so many chefs getting on board, so many brewers getting on board, and really taking some pride in what Louisiana has to offer.
It's part of the trend nationwide, and the local food movement has been big, and it's coming to Louisiana, but I think it's just kind of weird the way that it's getting into Louisiana and the way that Louisiana chefs are dealing with it, because like you said, it's obviously happening and it's really cool and it's really exciting, but Louisiana has always had a pride in our local ingredients. It just usually has been Louisiana seafood and then some Louisiana products, some just, cane syrup or Bruce's yams or Domro's sugar, just Louisiana, right, Louisiana products here and there, and then Louisiana seafood, and now it's really just kind of getting like everything from Louisiana is getting that same buzz, that same attention, and it's becoming part of the marketing for everything. Is to say, look, let's not just use Steve's cane syrup out of Abbeville, but let's promote that that's what we're using, so that people know that we're using local products, and I think it's really working out well for everybody.
People are starting to save that dollar and use it for some local stuff. Sorry about the music, folks. We have a perfect golden tea game going on.
I think in 27 seconds it's going to shut off. So.
It's all good.
Somebody left money in the golden tea.
We're really recording here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the local movements. I spent a little time at Cape Falls, and Chef Paul was one of the first people at Commanders to say, hey, local, I'm going to get everything from 100 miles from my back door. And it turned Commanders into the #1 restaurant in America. Just that simple thought that, hey, it's going to be freshest and local to me. Try to get a hold of one, Jay.
Come play some golden tea here in Erin Rose.
Yeah, so what were we talking about? I got distracted. I was thinking,
local food.
Then I was like, yo, that could be our. You guys want to? I stand back here behind these panels 16 hours a day sometimes, and I hear that music a lot.
Yeah.
So. I was thinking of the Viper because there's a little voice that's like, go for one. I'm like, the Viper is disarmed.
Well, I think to me one of the really neat things is that the local restaurants that are really starting to demand locally sourced product and really caring about where they're getting not just their produce but their proteins and other things has now given a rise to a new generation of Louisiana farms that are starting to see a viable market in producing those things.
They can make money doing
right, because now and make good money selling directly to restaurants instead of like scrapping to try to find a distributor or a wholesaler to hopefully get it on the market somewhere. Now, there's chefs going to farms, hand selecting the produce and the proteins that they want.
Like we have cubby rideteers that brings it to the restaurant. The chef comes out and says, those look great, I'll take those beets. Man, those carrots are fire. And do it like that, so I mean...
Yeah, it's a boutique ingredient and not a commoditized dollar sign to a broker. Right. And this is like the chain that was broken here. Now this is what chefs in France and Europe been waking up at 5 in the morning to do in Japan to go to the market and pick and put their hands on the ingredients.
There was no market to go to unless you were going on Saturdays before Katrina. I mean, that was the market.
Yeah.
They have the seafood across the river. On the West Bank, but I mean that's about it.
Well, 75 years ago there was 80 markets. Well, 75 years ago, 80, 90 years ago, the 19th century, there was a market for every neighborhood with obviously local stuff. And I think the cool thing on the New Orleans perspective, and some of the guys I've worked for, and maybe even stretching to South Louisiana, is that now we've always had like the bootleg and the contraband. We've always been a port, so we've got the spices and stuff coming through. So as a chef, your vision can be more expansive than just what comes, and obviously the peppercorn's not going to grow 100 miles from you, all right?
Right.
But I think, that's just part of like our global vision. Like for me, if it's perishable, I like to buy it local. If it's a spice or condiment, I like to raid the international pantry because that's my vision, so.
Spices last.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good way to look at it. And that's, like you said, just the history of New Orleans and the way that there's so many cultures that have contributed to the food that is here, and that when you really look at Creole food and the culture that has come out of New Orleans and how many different nationalities or places of origin that contributed to all of that, whether it's Caribbean and African.
You hear about the
Spain,
slaves,
France,
the
Italy.
The slaves bought their freedom from selling kala on their head from the Treme and that whole area. They would buy their freedoms by selling rice, fritters on the weekends on their days off.
Right.
And that was in the French market where you could go get a pig and vegetables, and it used to sell more than glasses and and
sunglasses, t-shirts, incense, and like luggage,
it used
phone
to be,
cases, man.
It used to be a market.
But guys, if you need a phone case or a phone charger, now
that's
that there's only
nice to
2 on the market, it makes it easier, right? When they used to have 7 different like phone charge interfaces, then you'd really need to know to go down to the fridge market and get. But you brought up a great point about the local producers, and like we talk about Two Run Farm, and we're gonna have them on the show eventually. We talk about those guys a lot on the show. I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, just figuring, because I'm nosy. Stuff. So who else you'll sell to down here? And basically, he's, the way their model, they're not really set up to sell to the big guy anyway, because they can't match the production of the 200-seat restaurant. So that's great for us smaller guys, where he can definitely match me, and I feel it as a challenge to keep buying more meat from them, until they can't sell me no more meat. But it's gonna take me a while to get there, though.
Yeah,
so.
They have a great product, and they're really nice. Charlie and Joel over at Two Run Farm. Y'all check them out on the internet if you get a chance. They're doing some really good stuff, and they're supplying a lot of meat to a lot of chefs directly into the city. Isaac Toops over at Toops Meadery is using them a lot. He did a beef heart tartare the other day. I saw him.
Baru had a beef heart dish too. I saw them tweeting at Two Run about that.
So they're really getting it out there. You had a tongue.
We did some tongue this week. I use their beef and their lamb.
Yeah.
All the time, and that's the only red meat I use down here.
I love good lamb.
Man, they do great lamb.
Yeah,
and,
it's really tasty. Really got a nice fat to it. You talk about taste the grass and stuff. It's really clean. The consumer can buy them at Holly Grove, at the New Orleans Food Co-op. They're in some Rouses, right? I think they're in some Rouses. They were. I think they started pulling that out
for
some reason. I think there were some quality issues on Rouse's side on how they were handling things and how long they were handling it and so forth. So they took all that back so they could have more control over it.
So it'd be great if any of you guys are listening from Baton Rouge, holler at Two Run. I don't know if they deliver to y'all, but I know their operations in Mississippi, so they gotta come somewhat. I don't know.
It might come close.
It might come close enough. Maybe one of y'all Baton Rouge chefs can go meet them by
I'm sure
I-10
if the price was right, I'm sure Charlie would take a ride.
Meet me right outside of Man Shack,
That's what's up. So Jay, where are you going to be eating, or where have you eaten? You've been here for what, a day now, or?
Yeah, I got in last night after the Saints beating Atlanta, which was pretty nice. I ate at Root.
Okay.
Have you been there yet?
I haven't, but I've heard great things.
Have you been to Root?
I have not been to Root, man, but I would love to go to Root. Actually, I'm excited.
It was one of those places, kind of like my first trip to Commander's Palace, where just the reputation and the expectations that I put on it were so high before going.
Right.
And then it's just that rare occasion where they actually match or still exceed those super high expectations. Yeah. Commander's Palace did that for me my first time to go to Commander's, and Root did it for me last night.
Now, do you say that you're a food writer, and do you let that be known?
It was not known at Root last night.
Okay.
No, I just went in.
You just went in.
I knew one of the girls that was working the line in the kitchen, but I mean she wasn't able to do anything special or anything. She did a great job with the food, but no. So last night at Root, no, I was just a regular old diner. And but it was phenomenal.
Still have your doors blown off. That's
I mean the cocktails were great. The charcuterie selection was fantastic. Ate like a chocolate espresso lamb. That was just sliced paper thin and
did you have the delicious scallops, the cigar box
scallops? I did not get I didn't get the cigar box scallops because I've seen so many pictures of it. I knew what it looked like already, and that was one of those, I didn't need to see the presentation. And I saw 5 people in the restaurant get them while I was there. So I get it. I see what it is. It looks really good. But I actually cooked some scallops last week for a cooking class in Baton Rouge. And I'm doing a dinner at the Tin Roof Brewery this week where I'm going to do some seared scallops. So I just didn't need more scallops on my plate. I wanted to try some other things that I had never seen pictures of. They had this dish called the goat boxes.
Goat box.
So
It's like a heavy metal.
I mean, it was goat. It was I mean, in Texas we call it carrito. It's the Mexican word for Spanish, I guess, not Mexican. That's what they call it in Mexico anyway. But I mean, it was just like real tender, cooked down, braised goat meat that they then formed into like a mold and like made it look like cubes. But when you broke into them, it just kind of fell apart, and it was just this succulent, tender goat meat, and it was plated really beautifully. I mean, that was a cool dish. They had these Louisiana pickled shrimp with deviled eggs that were really good, and then the face bacon, which is basically, I mean, it's the face of the pig and into a bacon. I mean, it was good. It was good. So yeah, all in all, I was impressed for sure.
Awesome. Cool, man.
And then I did Salud on magazine.
Okay.
I had some different seafood over there. It was all really good. I was fairly impressed. The mussels weren't the best I've ever had. They were all right. I enjoyed them, and I like mussels. And then they had a seared tuna that was really good. What else did we have? Yeah, we had more scallops there. They were actually really good. It was over like some seared scallops over a pumpkin risotto. That actually was pretty nice.
Well, that kind of makes sense because, you know, a lot of that classical, not classical, but you see a lot of menus that I've read, you know, 30, 50 years going back. There's usually that mushroomy element with scallops. Yeah. Now, pumpkin's not a mushroom, but I feel like it might convey some of that earthiness, you know, in a different way.
Yeah. You know, sweet.
Yeah, a little sweet. Or it complements the scallop, you know.
Yeah. Nice. I'm going to Grand Isle tonight. Okay. Never been there.
I've never been there either.
Mark Falgout is a chef over there. He does a good job with seafood. He also does a real good job with charcuterie, like I was telling you before. So get a chance.
Get some cured meats.
If there's any of that on the menu, I know sometimes his hands are tied.
Yeah. Being in a seafood restaurant.
Well, he's a chef, and they have owners that kind of control the place, and that happens sometimes too.
When you have an owner.
Well, yeah. when you're not the chef owner, you know, you have to listen to what other people tell you, and you kind of hinders you in a way. You know, it's almost a part of corporate, but you have to get the job done. So.
You know, I think that right there is something that that has, at least to some degree, held Baton Rouge's culinary scene back, and it's starting to change.
More independence instead of the corporate.
Right, but and not, like you were saying, not true corporate, locally owned restaurants, but just where the ownership has nothing to do with what's actually happening in the kitchen, but they dictate to the chef, and they still stifle the chef's creativity. And for the chef to not have any ownership and not actually have control of their menu, you're just... Even if you have a really talented chef in there, they're going to stay for a little while and then they're going to leave and go somewhere else where they can have control. And now, I think, with a handful of Baton Rouge restaurants that do actually have chef owners, and then there's some more, some of the ones that I mentioned, like Creole and Jubin's and those guys, where they're really starting to say, look, let's hire a chef that we want, that's gonna stay here. Let's invest in that chef. Let's let that chef invest in us, and let's give them a little bit more creative control over the menu, and let them do some things that, you know, that us from just the ownership level wouldn't ever think about doing. But if the chef can nail it, let's do it. It's starting to turn some things around just with the creativity that's coming out of the kitchen.
Like chefs, you know, we're the most competitive in like the friendly sportsman kind of way. Like, oh, what's one? Well, like the reason why I asked you, who else is using real stuff down here?
Right.
I'm sleeping. I want to know what everybody else is doing, right? You know, it's in this cooking game at least. So it's always great to have like, all right, so you got the old school place that they say, hey, you know what? The guest wants more creative food. Let's let the chef have control a little bit. Down the road, you got the new school place that's the chef owner place. Now there's this little interplay between what are they doing. You know, I mean, it just, I think it's great, better for the diner, man, for drinking and dining when there's more creativity on the table and the creators are driving that spirit, you know. And it's what the guest wants now. You know what I'm saying? Like
a great example of that serendipity right now with Chef Chris DeBar. What he's doing over there at Serendipity is, you know, he's not living with any rules, you know, and he's making his own rules and thinking outside the box and doing black chicken and doing these crazy things.
He's always been great for
Yeah. In his wine list, Todd Price did an article in his wine list.
There, man. He actually does a series over there. You should check out. I forgot what day it's called. Drink Like a Pro, and they'll roll.
It might be the day.
It might be on Mondays. Yeah, they'll roll through like some rare, obscure series of wines. Feature a winemaker, maybe feature a region, maybe feature recipes, you know. And he's really. I work for the man, and let me tell you, he's got this immense knowledge of wine, and not only like not just the. It's made from this grape in this region, and the sun comes this. I mean, he's got the story and the lore. Well, 3,000 years ago, the Romans tilled this soil. You know, it's like you get like the whole fucking Wikipedia entry and shit with his own weird little sense of humor thrown in. So it's
we
really,
have one of our old podcasts. We get a chance to listen to it. It's really great. He brought up some really great jazz references and stuff like that. It was a really cool stuff.
What's been your your favorite guest, or like maybe like the most like radio magic you've made? Like who's been on there? You know, how's that been happening?
So I've had John Folse on, and he was really good. I mean, he does his own radio show and stuff too. I mean, he's a pro. But he came in, and I mean, it was just like me and him shooting just chatting about food for an hour, and it was a really good show. I've had the owners of Slappy Mama Cajun Seasoning on, and they're a couple of Jack and Joe Walker, and they're a dynamic couple of guys, and do a good job just being passionate about what they're contributing to the local food scene. They're really working on establishing a lot more of a New Orleans presence right now as well. Even
I've been seeing a lot more grocery stores.
Their seasoning is made in Ville Platte, Louisiana, over by Opelousas, North Lafayette. But they're really trying to get into New Orleans and into the food here. And they're really working on pushing their commercial stuff and packaging sizes for restaurants to be using their products, you know, in house instead of just grocery shelves. So that's pretty cool. And they're some good guys. I've had a handful of other chefs that have been really good from the Baton Rouge area. All of them that I mentioned earlier. Well, Ryan Andre from Lake Creole, Nathan Gresham from Bosa Lake, Chris Wadsworth from Restaurant IPO have all been on the show and have done a great job. I haven't had Jamie Hernandez in. Scott Barnadoe is another chef at Struby's in downtown Baton Rouge. I'd add that to my fine dining Baton Rouge list.
You used to do some stuff here, right?
Yeah. Barnadoe's been all around. He's been in Natchez, Mississippi. He's been in a couple plantations around Louisiana.
He opened Muriel's. He was the opening chef for Muriel's, Jackson Square, I think. I'm pretty sure.
May have been.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that name sounds.
He's
way
good.
Before Gus.
He's Scott Barnadoe's cooked at the James Beard House a couple times in New York. I mean, he's known. He's at a place called Struby's downtown Baton Rouge as well, and he was a good guy to have on the radio. So it's you know, it's been a mix. I've also had a handful of liquor reps, wine people, brewers. Every year in May, I spend the whole month of May dedicated to craft beer.
Yes.
And because American Craft Beer Week is in the middle of May, and I just take the whole month of May and do craft beer. So I've had the guys from Tin Roof in studio a good bit. Andrew Godley from the Parish Brewing Company in Broussard, Louisiana, south of Lafayette's called in every year. Polly Watts from the Avenue Pub here in New Orleans always calls in, says what she has going on for American Craft Beer Week, and we talk beer on the radio. So there's always stuff like that going on, and other people around Baton Rouge that sell beer. People from Calandro Supermarket, which is one of my sponsors, but I get those guys in the studio a good bit and just talk about different things that they're doing, because they really do the best job in Baton Rouge of stocking craft beer for the public to go buy off the shelves. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. Well, where can everybody find you, Jay? If they're out there on the internet land and they're looking for Jay.
Yeah, well, if you just Google Jay Ducote, a lot will come up. You see anything about a retired firefighter in Scottsdale, Arizona, that's the other Jay Ducote.
Nice.
But I think the first page of the Google search results is all me. BiteandBooze.com is the website. Facebook.com/BiteandBooze or @BiteandBooze on Twitter. So it's the trifecta there. Just Bite and Booze, spell it all out, and you'll find me somewhere. And then on the radio in Baton Rouge, it's Saturdays on 107.3, Fridays and Sundays. It replays the show called Raise the Glass, which is completely about the history, traditions, culture, production, and of course consumption of alcoholic beverages. That's Fridays at 6 on 96.9 FM in Baton Rouge. And both of those are available on the website as well. So biteandbooze.com. There's tabs at the top for the Bite and Booze radio show and for Raise the Glass. You can stream them there or on iTunes. You can find both of them there as well.
Awesome.
And Chef Cam, what's your hours over here at Killer?
All right, we're over here at 811 Conti in the back of the Erin Rose Bar. You got to be 21. There's gambling, there's drinking, there's smoking. You might see a nipple, but we're in the back here at Erin Rose Bar.
Naked butts.
Yeah, you saw some naked butts back here. 811 Conti. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 12. You want to holler at us? We're at Killer Po Boys on the Twitters. We're Facebook/Killer Po Boys on Facebook, and I kind of have a website and a blog, but those aren't too active yet. Yeah. Oh, and we're in this week's Gambit, y'all. Page 35. Pick it up. Look at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, we're NOLASmokehouse.com for any of your barbecue needs. All right, NOLA, y'all stay hungry. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for coming down, man.
Sorry about the
Oh, no,
Sorry,
you were great. I'm
sorry.
Rob. I'm
Nice
sorry.
to meet you. I'm Hannah.
Hannah, nice to meet
She
you.
just started doing that doesn't fuck anything up.
So just plug it back in.
Yeah. They just started playing the weird music in the countdown. I told them, I said, guys, when I finish counting down, it'll just go to the idle screen. Then it just started over again.
No, I didn't.
Alright, camera mic?
No, there's no
That's
camera on
That's a
there.
noise canceling mic.
Oh, it cancels out background there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Vaughn. This is my guy. You know I was telling you about the podcast, right? This is the guy that mostly does it, that I co-host.
Really?
Yeah.
Jay.
How you doing?
Yeah, bro. I do webcams.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been doing them a while.
Yeah, we started doing a NOLA food podcast. So talking about NOLA food.
Yeah.
Do some different shit.
That's a great idea.
Hell yeah, man. We should have you on the show. I'm sure you got a couple stories to tell.
I do shows, like I said. I put them out about once a month. I put one out.
But I'm serious. We should interview you on the show just to talk about some of the work you've done down here.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep you in the can till December. We're doing
Yeah.
the
We're doing
ladies
the ladies
thing.
month.
Yeah, so you'll be the first one out in December.
What are you using to transmit with?
No worries there.
I think this is good.
This?
Yeah.
That's just
This
recording.
is the recording.
It's not transmitting.
Oh, it's
We tried Ustream, and it just sucked.
That
right?
doesn't work.
Real
So-
choppy and
EarthCam has a good one.
Earthcam?
EarthCam. And also Vimo
I've
is
got-
another one.
I've got
I heard of.
EarthCam right now, and I can stream.
Is that a free service?
Yeah,
so
no
this is good
hesitation,
for
no nothing, man.
Really
It's like
smart.
on.
We're doing
check that out.
Yeah, and I've had up to 10,000 people tying in at one time.
That's a lot.
That's freaking a whole lot.
That's a lot.